Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. Housekeeping, share this shit. I say it every fucking time. If you like it, if you get something out of it, share it with people. We're just trying to reach as many people as we can so we can help as many people as we can. So that being said, I have been told lately that I need to spend a little time doing more solo podcasts. And I don't know why I've been apprehensive about it a little bit. I enjoyed it when I did it the last couple of times. But for whatever reason, it's easier when I have a guest here because I can put the spotlight on them and not on me, because then if this episode fucking bombs and nobody likes it, it's fucking all on me. But if another one bombs, I can blame it on them. No, I wouldn't actually do that, but I could at least, right? Maybe in the back of my mind, I could do that. But so I've been thinking for a while. About what I would want to talk about if I did a solo podcast again. And I had Hunter Ballou in here the other day, and we were talking. We did an episode actually, and afterwards we went out to dinner and we were chatting. And we were chatting about a few years ago or a couple years ago, I don't know, whenever the fuck COVID was, about my episode in Florida and why I'm so anti-fucking Florida. And I'm not anti-Florida. I'm anti this situation that happened to me. And he asked me if I had actually ever publicly talked about that time in my life. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if I've publicly talked about it. I've definitely like not hidden it, and I've talked to numerous people about it. But then I started thinking, and he's like, or I started talking to him a little bit more, and he's like, hey man, he goes, you know, that's some shit that people need to hear. That's some shit that people need to hear because people need to hear about failures and fuck ups. And that one was a big failure and a big fuck up that set me back quite a bit. So anyway, so the purpose of today is to share with you a fuck up of mine that was so large that like it put me in a position where financially I was like, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. So what happened was, so we'll rewind, get back to when it started. We'll call it like, I don't know, 3 years ago. When the fuck was COVID? 2019, 2020? So it was end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So it was beginning of 2020-ish. And there was and some of you probably remember this, people all in the forums and the fucking Facebook groups and all the bullshit. There was a guy that was trying to sell his business or part of his business down in Jupiter, Florida. And he was supposedly this guy who had, he had a small roofing company down there, but had been around for a while. It was a family business at one point. He had a decent reputation, but hadn't paid some bills and had gotten into some debt and needed some help and blah, 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 blah. And was looking for somebody to partner with him. And people were talking about it, and everybody was sending emails and, you know, Facebook messages and all that bullshit. And I got numerous Facebook messages about it because apparently this guy also was very retail driven down there and didn't know anything about insurance restoration work. So it really made sense that somebody would possibly go partner with him, you know, from the Midwest that wanted to get in and have a Florida license, which depending on when this fucking airs, you know, is a shitload of people doing the same fucking thing in Florida right now because of Ian, right? And so I don't know if this is a cautionary tale for anybody, but, and again, depending on when this airs, but so it was a very attractive situation for somebody from the Midwest who knows insurance, understands, hail, obviously, and not hurricane, but understands the insurance process, right? But doesn't understand Florida law, doesn't understand Florida build process, production process. So it made sense to try and find somebody, and then if that guy was good enough, to keep him on for production, which is, kind of is where this is going. So I'd gotten all these different phone calls, emails, whatever. And then there were people that were trying to make these connections. And so what I have not publicly talked about is the fact that I was connected via Anthony Del Medico over at Storm Ventures Group. And I was the one that reached out because Anthony was down there talking with this guy. His name was Danny. Well, fuck him. His name's Danny Tamici. I have nothing to fucking hide anymore. Danny Tamici can kiss my fucking ass. And he works for Cinemark now, so I'll fucking throw that out there too. Cinemark fucking employed this prick. But anyway, I had called Anthony and said, hey, is this guy for real? I'm interested in this. And Anthony, he had been down there and visited his little office a little bit. And he's like, yeah, he's for real. He's got a nice little place down here. It should be a good opportunity for the right person, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, well, I'm going to fly down there and talk about it. The whole thing, every phone call that I had with anybody was, oh, you got to fucking move fast though. You got to move fast, because if you don't move fast, the liens that he's got from suppliers and stuff are going to end up making the business close down, and he's going to lose his license. And so if the shit doesn't get paid off fucking really fucking fast, then the whole fucking thing goes out the window and you just lost the opportunity. I'm like, all right, fuck. And what's the worst thing to do in a situation like this? Move fast, right? Like, I fucking know better. I know better than to do that. But I saw fucking dollar signs, and I saw fucking hurricanes coming, in the next year. And I saw this opportunity to grow without thinking about doing proper due diligence. But so I fly down there anyway, and I fly down a couple of times, but I fly down and I spend a couple of days with him. And then I even fly my family down, and we go down and like hang out with his family. We go out to dinner. I take him to the beach. Like, our kids are playing together. We go have ice cream on Sunday together with Tegan and his two kids. And I really liked the guy. Like, I genuinely did. Like, I felt bad for him. He'd been put in a fucking shitty spot. I liked his wife. His wife was nice. His kids were sweet. And like, I wanted to help this guy. I wanted to have this win-win of, I get to help a human and I get to make a fuckload of money at the same time. That's what I want to do. Like, what a great situation to be in, to be able to do that. So the other thing though, too, was looking back, he truly was a fucking con man. Like, he knew what he was doing, because he catered. He did a great job catering to the things that matter to me and to my ego, because he would tell me how much he appreciated the Roofers in Recovery program and what we were doing, because one of the reasons that he went downhill was because he started using pills. But I mean, he was good now. Right? Obviously, false statement. And he might have been good at that moment in time, right? Because usually I can tell if somebody's fucked up on pills or, whatever. Like, I've got enough that I've been around long enough to see that I can tell. And I couldn't see that. And so what ended up happening is, what I did, for people wondering, like, what the fuck did you do? Did you buy it? So what I actually did was I made a deal with this prick that I was going to buy 80% of the company, and he was going to keep 20%, because the way that I understood it, and people watching this are going to be like, that's not how it fucking is. Well, I don't know. I didn't fucking know. I didn't know what the fuck it was then. Okay. But at the time, the way that it was explained to me was that he had to keep 20% of the company, because if he did, then he could keep his license, he could keep his name on the license, and then eventually I could figure out a way to get it put in mine. I could test and do all that stuff, but to move forward quickly, this is how we would do it. So he would retain 20%, And then the deal was I was going to pay him a salary to run production. So he was going to run production because that was something that I did not understand was production in Florida. I understand production in the Midwest, but I don't understand the 97 fucking inspections that you guys have to do down there for Florida installs. So I was keeping him on his production, and I was paying him, I can't remember. It was like 130 or 150,000 maybe for the 80%. And then because of the other debt that he was in, I was going to give him a $50,000 promissory note so he could go pay off some of his like more internal debtors, whatever, right? But that 150 or whatever the number was, it was close to that. But that 150 that I was paying him was going to go towards paying off all of those liens that the suppliers had on homes, so that those could all get released, and we could get out from underneath that. And then I could set up my own accounts through my own suppliers, and we could start selling and building more roofs, start making money, and I could get the money back. No problem. Right. So I do that. The money has to be deposited into the business account. I'm in the process of getting my name on the Sunbiz registry thing. And during that time, obviously we're incurring expenses. So I'm influxing cash into the business to make sure that it stays afloat. Cause I'm like, okay, even if I influx, a few $100,000 into this at the end of the day, we have, one good event down there, whatever, I'll make that back in, no time, like no problem. So I'm doing that. And then I'll never forget, and for some reason there was never any fucking money going in. It was always like a small deposit here or a little final thing here, but there was never like a real fucking like deposit. And I was like, God damn it. And I was down there a lot. Obviously I wasn't down there enough, and I needed to be down there. And one of the mistakes that I made was that I was committed, but I was probably only like 75% committed. And so if I was going to do that, like I needed to literally live there. Right. And I went and got an apartment. I shipped a car down there. I had a place, and like I spent a good amount of time there, and I was in the office a lot, and I was dealing with this and trying to rebuild a business and hire more people. But obviously I was missing things. But there just wasn't enough deposits. And then all of a sudden, I never forget, I was on the retreat in Idaho, on the Idaho retreat with Sam that I broke my arm, that retreat. And it was before I broke my arm. And I remember standing outside and the phone was ringing, and I answered it. And I think it was him. It was that prick, Danny Tamici. That was his fucking name. Danny Tamici works for Centimark now. He was calling, somebody was calling, attorneys were calling, and the liens weren't going to go away, and something else was going to happen legally if we didn't come up with another $140,000 to pay everything off. And keep in mind, at this point, I had used a bunch of money that I had sold a commercial property. So I was foregoing my 1031 savings to use this to invest into this. So that was obviously costing me money. And then I got to this point and I had to leverage my house. So now I had to leverage my fucking equity in my house and risk my house, my family, everything, because now I was what I thought I was pot committed, because I was already 180 in whatever it was. And so I ended up authorizing it, and I paid off the other 140 or whatever it was, because I was like, all right, if we get that paid off, we're fucking square. We're square. We can start from scratch. I'm going to call it a $300,000 investment. Fine. It's too much. People will make fun of me. Like, this is embarrassing to tell the story, right? Like, I understand, like, people are going to be like, you fucking idiot. Like, yeah, I get it. Fuck you. I was like, I can make that back. Like, I can make that back easy. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to run a roofing company. It's fine. So I put that in, and then I head back down there, and all of a sudden I start getting mail and start intercepting mail. and find out that this motherfucker didn't tell me about the other $500,000 in debt that was in not only his name, but the company's name that my name was going on. I fucking lost my shit. I was like, I'm done, dude. Like, you fucked me. I got him to agree to sign a breach of contract letter because he fucking breached the contract that we had, because he didn't disclose everything. He lied. He gave me that letter so that I was able to give it to my attorneys. And so they were able to get my name off of everything. So people weren't going to come after me because I was a victim in this fucking thing. I was an idiot in this thing. Don't get me wrong. I was an idiot, but I was also a victim in the thing. And I didn't want other people that were coming after him, because what turned out is that he was stealing deposits from homeowners, keeping the money, not building the roof. And so then all of a sudden the homeowners started calling, and I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that had absolutely nothing to do with me. We ended up filing a lawsuit, got summary judgment, but, well, actually, no, I take that back. We were going to be granted summary judgment, but we were going to have to pay like another, I don't know, 10 grand, 10 grand, something like that for our attorneys to be able to finish it out, file the paperwork, blah, blah, blah. There was never going to be any money to get from him because he doesn't fucking have anything. I don't know. Maybe he does now, Centimark. But there was nothing that we were going to be able to get from him. And so I was like, look, I'm done spending time and energy on this cocksucker. And I just closed it and I said, I'm done. My name's off of it. You know, everybody knows that I don't have anything to do with this business anymore. And I walked away, and when it was all said and done, I was $500,000 in. Now, for a lot of people watching this, will laugh and be like, $500,000, you fucking pussy. Like, who gives a shit? Just move on to your next deal. Right. And I get that. I'm not the guy that says $500,000 isn't a lot of money. $500,000 is a fuckload of money to a guy like me, and especially to a guy like me 3 years ago. I had just had a couple of decent years in the business again, and we were just getting our footing back, and everything was kind of coming into focus. And I had opportunities and moves that I could make, and this was the move that I decided to make, and I kind of put all my eggs in one basket with that. And again, my mistake. And I learned a lot from it. And what was really crazy was the work that I had to do on myself after it was done to get back to being me. And that was something that I kind of wanted to finish up with talking about, was when you have huge fuck ups like this and huge failures like this and things that like shake you to your fucking core, when you've put into jeopardy your home and your family and, you know, your well-being and your income and, you know, whatever else, when you have that stuff happen, you start to lose a lot of confidence in yourself and your decision-making. And I had to spend a lot of time working with my coach I had to figure out the why behind that. I had to figure out why I didn't catch certain things that I usually catch, because I'm usually a pretty good judge of character. I've usually got a pretty good gut instinct. I usually can smell out bullshit. And I didn't this time. And I had to do a lot of work to figure out why. But then I had to do a lot of work. If you ever come into this situation, I had to do a lot of work to reteach myself to trust myself and to trust myself to make decisions and to trust myself to take risks again. Because I always, felt really good about the fact that I've never been risk adverse. Yeah. I've never been risk adverse. And I know that we have to take risks if we're going to get rewards, right? I mean, I know that. I'm not the play it safe fucking guy. I've never been that guy. But I went into this period of time where everything that I was looking at doing had like a goddamn bubble picture of Danny Tamici fucking sitting there. And I was like, you motherfucker. Like, he was like haunting everything that I wanted to do moving forward, because everything had to have a Danny connected to it. And it took me, I bet it took me a year. To get back my confidence, and then grow it to a point where it hadn't been before. Right. But it took so much work. And so the point that I'm making or the reason that I'm bringing all this up is because I know that people listening and watching have been through some bullshit like that. And it might not be like that exact situation. It might not be $500,000. It might be $20 million for guys that do serious shit. And it might be somebody that fucked up on 10 grand and that put their family in jeopardy. Right? It doesn't matter what the scale of it is, because at the end of the day, it's kind of the saying, like, if you got $1 million in your bank account and you take out 10,000, who gives a fuck? But if you got 15,000 and you take out 10,000, then you really give a fuck. So it's all about perspective. It's all about, it doesn't matter the number. It just matters the percentage, right, of what fucking hurt you. And then what's really real are the feelings and the anxiety that's associated with that transaction, and with that amount, if it's money, or that feeling that you have because you think that you have let down your people. And that's all I could focus on, was that I let down my wife and my kid. I fucked up. They trusted me to continue and to do the right thing and to make the decisions to better further our situation. And I made a decision that put us in a really bad spot. And that's not acceptable. And it took me a long time to get out of that. And so for anybody that's been through that, I just want you to know, like, I get it and I understand, and you can get through it. But you can't get through it by yourself, because you'll continue to fucking beat yourself up. Ask somebody for help. Ask somebody for help that's been through some shit like that, or that's just smarter than you, that understands how to get you through it, because that's what I had to do. I had to do with somebody that I trust, that knew how to get me through that. So anyway, I've went long enough, but the point, I really wanted people to know. People need to know losses. People need to know when you fuck up. And that's how we form connections, is admitting when we're wrong, admitting when we fucked up and we were wrong, and admitting that we've been through some shit, and then talk about how we got through it. And so I want people to know that, like, it's not all rainbows and unicorns and, pixie dust bullshit. It's you got to go through some of this shit. I mean, if I could take that one back, I'd fucking take that one back. I mean, I learned a shitload from it, but I don't know if I needed to pay quite that much for that education. But I did, and I learned a lot from it, and it's definitely helped me in my future endeavors. So I'm going to take that part as a win, right? I've dug out of the hole. I've paid off all my debt from it and everything, but it still sticks with me a little bit. Obviously you can tell that I still have a little bit of resentment to the man, which is probably something I'm going to have to work on with a sponsor. I'd really prefer not to. and I have resentment to kind of everybody involved in the transaction, to be completely honest. For a long time I have, and that's probably something that I need to forgive. That'll take a while. I'm still not ready fucking 2.5, 3 years later. Like I still have a lot of resentment, towards those people that were involved in the transaction. And that didn't take any ownership of any of it. So anyway, that's what I've got for tonight. I just felt like sharing. I'm going to try and do more of these, as I'm being told that I should, unless y'all watch this and go, please don't fucking do any more of these. Please just bring on guests and let them answer questions, because they're more fun than you are. If you say that, then that's what I'll do. But hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please share it with your friends, share it on social media, or don't if you didn't like it. But the one thing that I will remind you of every time is be authentic or get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah.